Hi guys, Harden here, back with another Eve Echoes video. Following on my last two, a few people kind of expressed their interest in learning more about my sort of PvP and PvE fittings for nullsec. Again, this is just my own preferences. As you guys know, I multi-box with two other ravens. So again, my fittings and setup are based on the premise that I'm flying in a little mini fleet of my own. And it's also based on the sort of environment here in Declan, depending on who's kind of coming around. So I have variants of the fit for different groups. Often it's very quiet, there's not much happening, and I'll just do some ratting, and I will show you my basic kind of PvE setup as well as my PvE setup. So anyway, the first thing I'll show you here is this is my sort of standard PvP setup for battleships. We get quite a few people kind of filamenting in, often in kind of battleships looking for a fight. I wouldn't say it's that common, but it does happen, and when those get reported, this is kind of the go-to setup for this. So let me jump in and kind of go into a bit more detail on the fitting here. You can see in the background our corporation has paid for this anime waifu thing on the station. So anyway, it's very pretty for those of you who like that kind of stuff. All right, but before that, let me quickly go into the fitting here. All right, so you can see here this ship is doing 4,500 DPS, which is a reasonable amount of DPS, considering that it is a very tanky fit. You can see here in the low slots, I've got 3 red hardeners, 1 yellow hardener, a damage control, and 1 ballistic control. And if you look over here, you can see the defense is 831,819 EHP, which is very high. And obviously when you activate that ballistic control, which you do get a bonus for on the Raven Navy, that kind of skyrockets. So before I go into a bit more explanation on this, I will just jump into the Raven Navy issue and just show you the ship traits. So you get 10% large missile torpedo activation time, 10% damage, minus 10% damage control reactivation delay, and plus 10% 10 seconds damage control activation time. So basically on the Raven Navy issue, a damage control is basically something that you really should use. You get that extra 10 seconds and you can cycle it more often, albeit most fights don't last that long, so the actual opportunity to reactivate doesn't really come around that often, I find. But the 10 seconds activation time is very handy in kind of clutch moments. There was an example a few days ago. We had a fleet of hot droppers operating in Declan. There was a small group of about 5, which myself and just some random other kind of SHH people kind of intercepted, and we killed the first 5 bombers, sorry, not bombers, I've forgotten, covert ops battleships. And just towards the end of the fight, I had my 3 battleships there. Another 25 dropped in, and obviously I was completely screwed at that point. But the damage control they targeted, I think it was, I can't remember which character it was they targeted of my 3, but basically I was able to pop the damage control, and I was able to tank for long enough that the DPS from my 3 battleships actually took down the FC of the group. So although one of my battleships escaped, I lost 2, but I did actually kill the FC of the group, and as a result of that, the other SHS people killed a few more. So we definitely came out ISK positive. I personally lost 2 and only killed 1, but the rest of the gang killed more. So it's kind of very effective. It's based on the premise of a sort of passive tank. Again, this may be something that I will revise at some point, because obviously you've got the bombers now with kind of the crazy shield boosting, but basically the way it had been going was the amount of DPS that was being put out through, because of nanocores and implants, was getting so high that fights were just lasting way too short, and there was no way on earth that even fighting 1 or 2 BS that your shield reppers could keep up with it. So I kind of basically went down the passive tank route, which is also much more cap stable. So anyway, that's the kind of Raven Navy issue there. And again, here is just some of the expert large missile torpedo, which you can see I've got maxed out. Large missile torpedo, so you've got extra flight velocity, you've got extra scan resolution there. So all around, this is a very good ship for PvP. It's got a very nice tank, and again, if you've got the right skills, you've got the right nanocore and implant, you can actually still get some very nice DPS out of it. And again, if you've got, again, I'm flying this in a group of 3, so if I'm concentrating fire, I can pretty much take down most targets, apart from those kind of bomber battleships. Now they really can tank anything with that, pretty much. Well, again, unless it's a dedicated DPS squad, yeah, they can really tank it crazily. Anyway, so that's the kind of stats on the Raven Navy issue. In terms of the weapons there, I'm using large missiles. Again, this is something where in PvP, actually the rapids generally tend to be more effective against smaller ships, medium-sized ships, and they are actually good against battleships as well in terms of dealing a lot of damage. But the problem is they're relatively short range, only 50 to 60 kilometers. And again, these days you can have people even points further out than that. The other thing is when you're going into a fight, again, these are kind of random fights. Just sometimes I'm looking around, wandering around deck myself, just looking for a fight. Sometimes they just kind of land on you. So you just never know what kind of range you're going to be at. So I find that these are just kind of very flexible. They may not be as good at hitting some of the smaller ships and applying damage, but they do give a lot of flexibility in kind of where you start the engagement and being able to apply DPS out to a long range. You can see here the missile range here is 160 kilometers. And again, with some of the bonuses that you get from the Raven Navy, you still actually have a reasonable explosion velocity. I mean, it's not that high, but it's not a disaster either, and the explosion radius is not that bad either. So anyway, that's just kind of my logic there. In terms of the mid slots, what I've got there is 2 tracking disruptors and 1 missile guidance computer. Again, I'm working in a little mini fleet with 3 others. If I run into a random BS or a small group of BS to fight, I find the tracking disruptors are very, very good, especially if I've got the same setup on 3 ships, at kind of disrupting the targets and reducing the amount of incoming DPS. Now, as you can see, there's no active tank on these ships, so basically it's kind of a race against time. I have to minimize their DPS. That involves, I mean, again, there's no prop mod on here, so speed tanking you can't do very much, but as long as you're moving, you actually kind of reduce some of the damage. And then if you're using the tracking disruptors and the missile guidance, depending on who it is you're fighting, that also reduces DPS. And again, the tank on here is stupidly large, so you can, unless you accidentally end up in a fight against 5 or 10, yes, if you're looking at a group of 2, 3, 4 other battleships, you can easily tank long enough to actually start taking some of those down as well. And then the other mid slot is a target painter, which is always useful for kind of missile ships. And again, just standard drones. These standard drones, they're just I could be using large drones, but I find I like to keep those just in case I do get intercepted by a smaller ship. They do help with that. And then I'll just jump in quickly into the rigs again, because this is my PvP ship. It's not a kind of crazy setup. I'm not using B types or anything on here. In terms of the low slots, again, it's a mixture, because this ship it's tanky and it does DPS as well. So it's kind of a bit of everything. You can see here, this is the core defense field, which actually increases the shield amount by 30%, which again plays into the kind of EHP on this ship. And then I've got a warhead califaction and a bay loading, which again are just activation time on my missiles and extra damage. So that's kind of my offensive. And then in terms of the defensive, this ship is cap stable, and I don't really, because it's a passive tank, don't really need, I can use my low slots for things other than capacitor. So you can see here the first one is capacitor, it's a capacitor control circuit, but then the second 2 are targeting system subcontrollers, which again in PvP situations are very, very useful, because they do allow you to lock on that bit faster and get shooting a little bit faster. And again, especially that's kind of helpful against some of the smaller ships. Sometimes you can surprise like a cruiser or an inti who kind of looks at the battleship, thinks, oh, this guy's not going to be able to shoot me for about 5-10 seconds, and then you can kind of one volley them if they're not moving or ready. And it doesn't happen very often. Most of those pilots are clever enough and realize that they need to do what they normally do, but occasionally you catch someone who's either, I don't know, not paying attention or just kind of assumes the battleship can't get them. So that's it for the fitting on here. The only other thing I will show here is the implant. Again, this is my PvP ship. It's out in 0.0. I do lose these from time to time. Apologies for the noise in the background if you're hearing that. There's a bit of a heavy rainstorm going on here. At the moment I'm based in the tropics, and there's been a typhoon in the area, and getting these occasional showers that make a lot of noise. Anyway, just to kind of explain, maybe talk a little bit louder so you can actually hear me. I really hope this doesn't, I really hope you can hear this. I'll have to play this back afterwards. In terms of the basic attributes, this is thermal damage, which obviously plays well with the implant, missile torpedo damage, capacitor, again more thermal damage, and shield, which again all work with the way I'm using this ship. And then I have expanded it, so you've got the missile torpedo damage and you've got activation time. Again, because this is not my daily bread and butter ship, I have a high spec Navy that is doing the AI stuff. I think I showed that in the other video. This one is not as pimped out. I mean, it just this one here just gets hideously expensive, especially these kind of red general nanosource triangle strut nanocore materials. It's very, very expensive. Okay, so let me just see if I have anything else to show on there. Again, I've shown my implant before. It's a level 40 warhead charge, and I use this with the kind of jump out here. I use this with the which one is it? Thermal warhead, because that kind of with the implant maximizes the damage, which is why I'm able to pronounce so much damage. Actually, sorry, I didn't realize. Maybe it's a bug. I'm not sure. Actually, yes. Hang on a second. I actually wasn't in the right mode here. I don't know if that was just something I did afterwards or not. Hold on. Let's have a look. Here we go. I'll just check. Yeah, no, it was showing for some reason. That must have turned off. I don't know why. So anyway, that is the basics of this ship. Again, we've got a very pretty system here, and very nice cartoon character there. All right, if you hold on a second, let me dock up, and I'll show you a few of the other setups on this one for slightly different circumstances. Well, actually, I can show one from here. I'll go to the fitting screen here. I will show you the variant I have for this for if I know it's a gang of smaller stuff. What I will tend to do is, again, I still use the same large missile because, again, it gives that flexibility. But again, if it's a gang with lots of small ships, then you've obviously got the large energy neutralizer, which again is a good way of stopping or slowing down tackle. Obviously a web there, target painter, and then a navy warp scrambler. And then the low slot's slightly less tanky. I've dropped the yellow on that one. I have just three red hardeners. Damage control again, because it's an absolute sin not to put it onto this ship. But then I've got a ballistic control system, which again is just helps with making your missiles go a little bit further and actually doing a little bit more damage on smaller stuff, and the rigs and everything is the same. So that's kind of my setup if I know that the small stuff. Normally, as I said, I would fly around with the kind of just the standard battleship setup, because again, I'd rather be ambushed in that fighting battleships than I am in the small in the smaller stuff setup. And then finally, what I will show you here is if I jump in, what I will do is I will dock and reset here for this. Oh, I'm going to shoot the station. There we go. Just 1 second, guys. Okay, what I'm going to do here, again, you can see our lady in here. I've got to give her a name. I don't know if some of the corp has given her a name or whatever, but anyway. If I jump into the fitting screen here and fitting management, I will show you my 00 NPC fitting. I'll jump in and apply that. Now, just so you're aware, this fitting is meant to be played actively. It's not for AI. I do my AI, as I mentioned, up in Empire. This is for down here. This is one of those setups where if you do get caught, if someone drops in on you, it's going to look very embarrassing. So this is the one. Let me undock here again and show you the details on this, because this one is basically about clearing the anoms, the small, medium, large, the T10 anomalies, the inquisitors, as quickly as possible. So if you hold on a second, let me just stop the ship there. Stop. Is this the right setup? I'm just kind of wondering. Okay, this isn't actually. I have adjusted this, but I obviously haven't saved this. Okay, hang on a second. Let me dock up and I will adjust it as according to how I've been using it more lately. Zoom out again. One second. I'll go to the fitting screen on this. Yeah, okay, so yeah, this was an older fitting that I haven't obviously saved it yet. It's just basically there's only a very small tweak on here, and that is the addition of a Kaldari missile, Navy missile thing here, fit, and the addition of an additional ballistic control, and that's it. Okay, and what I'll do is I will just take this ship outside again and just show you this in action briefly. But yes, this, as I said, is meant to be played actively. This is meant to be paying attention, because there is absolutely minimal tank on this. It's literally that one large shield booster, and you can die very, very quickly. So it's also one of those ones where you have to be watching local, you have to be watching your intel channels as well. Let me go to mission here. Let's see what we've got here. I've got lots of smalls. I'll do a small quickly just to show you the kind of damage it puts out. So let's warp into that. There we go. Yeah, it looks like the system is clear at the moment. And I'll just set this up so I put the shield booster here, and then all the ballistic controls there, and here I'm going
warp drive active,
and that there, and the web there, and I will put that there to make sure there's nothing here behind. No. Okay, I would normally group all these. Well, actually, let's start on that while we're warping in. Just helps sometimes for some reason when you kill a target. Sometimes it just doesn't. Oh, I forgot one of these is a pith key, which I just had lying around in my hangar. Okay. Alright, so this is a small anom, so it's relatively easy. I generally keep the PvP thing open. I'm kind of watching Intel channel and I'm watching local when I do this. But again, because of my playtime, because I'm a dad with 2 kids, I only get to maybe actively wrap for an hour or 2 every day. And it's one of the reasons why I actually do appreciate the AI. So first of all, I kind of set orbit on the anom because again it reduces some of the incoming damage. I will put my shield booster on there. What I'll do is I'll just move this over here. Okay, and here's the Raven Striker, first target, focus fire. And let me just show you here in terms of this. Obviously the EHP is a lot smaller, 326, but still not bad. Considering obviously you have the 2 Nosferatus there to kind of, it's like cap, and again I won't use the the missile guidance computer there because it's the larger target, but once I get onto one of the smaller ones I will use it, and you can see doing some very, very nice damage there, like 17,000 hits on armor. There's a 17,000 hit on armor and structure. And then we go across to the smaller targets, and this is where I will activate my web if they're close enough, and you can see this is going to be a one shot. There we go. And then the same on this heron, it's just going to be one shot, and again, because it's killing them so fast, I have to kind of reactivate the mods here. And then one more, the manticore, one more to hit, and yeah, it's
enemy ships
dead.
detected.
I'll show you the second wave here. Again, I tend to go for the battleships
We're
first,
under attack.
simply because you lock them faster, so you can actually start applying DPS faster, and it also gives the smaller targets an opportunity to come in a bit closer.
We're under attack.
And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit with 2 of the damage controls on, and you can see that what that does is it puts the DPS up to 7,384. And in fact, just as an experiment, I will show you with all of them on, and the DPS is now 8,673. Again, I am in the right mode. So again, that battleship died very quickly. And here I can put the web on because it's small, but again it died too quickly, now it's too far. So yeah, I go for the battleships first, which allows some of the smaller ships to get closer, which then allows you to web them. And again, I'm just kind of orbiting this here. So this is kind of what I do sometimes when I'm killing time, when I'm waiting to see if there's any. Sometimes I will just go out and roam around by myself, but often some very boring nights because deck isn't really that busy at the moment. And then some nights I will just sit here and do an hour or so of this, and then if there are some reports of any enemies coming in, I will just go and quickly switch into my PvP setup. So again, this is the third wave. Unfortunately, I've used all my damage controls here. Okay, there's focus fire. Again, if there were enemies around, if there was enemies, this is a bit of a backwater here, so I would normally know if there's any enemies coming in. Normally it works quite well, the intel system. If I did know there was enemies close by, I definitely would be killing that warp scrambling ship first, rather than focusing on the battleships. But again, I know that this area is quite safe. And again, you can see the capacitor does go down even with the 2 NOS, because again, this is the hull that is the PvP ship with the PvP PvP rigs. So these rigs are not capped; they're not designed for NPCing. They're designed for kind of targeting people quickly, which isn't ideal for kind of capacitor regeneration and everything else. So cap will kind of drop down, but again with the 2 Nosferatus it kind of keeps it relatively stable. So and again, the locking does help in terms of killing this a bit quicker. You can see there a 15k hit on the Blackbird. Again, I could have put my web on here, and let's put actually I'll save both of those for the last wave. Again, what I normally do with the ballistic controls there is I normally will do them one at a time, rather than having them activated all in one, kind of just using all the damage on one target. I kind of prefer to cycle them one at a time, which means that by the time you get to the next wave, you actually got 1 or 2 that you can activate, so you're kind of using them almost continuously. Alright, so here's the final wave. I don't think I'm going to even be able to get my pistol close because they take such a long time to kind of reactivate. Okay, and then we'll go for the Scorpion first, focus fire, and hopefully some of the smaller ships will come in a bit closer, and then the auto target will go for the closest one, at which point I can activate the web. So you can see here on the shield, 16k hit, again that's without any of the ballistic controls active. Again 15k, doing very nice damage. The rapids are definitely the best for kind of ratting. And you still do have a reasonable amount of range on here of 58 kilometers. And again, just one other thing is in terms of, so again, there's the web and everything. In terms of the range on this, in terms of this build, I forgot to mention I do have my implant. I have 2 GUs that I switch out when I'm using the PvP setup, the battleship killing setup. I have tracking, basically it's a GU that helps your tracking disruption modules be more effective. So I tend to switch that out if I know that I'm definitely going to be PvPing. Whereas when that's actually what is installed right now. Whereas when I go to do NPCing and I have got a missile guidance computer on the ship, then I swap that to the missile guidance GU, because that kind of helps me deliver more damage on the smaller ships more quickly. So there you go. That was a small done extremely quickly, extremely easily. This ship can even do larges solo as well. Again, I was doing a bit yesterday. Again, not fully paying attention. I was doing 3 different accounts. I can't show. I was going to show you the bounties, but the bounties here will go up to about 22-23 million per tick if you get a large or a couple of larges in a row, which isn't too bad for sort of semi AFK ranting. But again, not fully AFK, because again, this fit, as I mentioned, is really, if you do get caught with this, especially I've put these new fighters, these new drones that we got from that event box, not the event box. The mission thing, which I didn't buy these separately. I got them through the kind of mission or event chain, and again, these ones are obviously large, so they're not as good if you get into a fight against smaller stuff, which is why I don't use them on the PvP fit, but they are quite handy for just general NPCing. So basically that's it. I'm going to dock here and just see if there's anything else to show you when I do that. Let's see. Oh, it's the wrong one. Okay, you can see there the shield booster running. It does kind of drop down to around 25 to 30% if I forget to activate the Nosferatu's there.
Warp drive active.
But I never really have a problem with cap. The only other thing with such a minimal tank here is if you are ambushed, you are completely screwed. So again, really this is for paying attention when you're ratting. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, in terms of the damage, the large one, the last couple of waves in large one, the shield will start going down. So you have to kill stuff. Basically, your shield is not enough to tank it all in perpetuity. So it's another reason that you have to actively rat rather than just sit there and start the guns at the beginning of each wave, turn your shield booster on, and then don't worry about it. With this one, you actually have to pay attention, because if you don't, your shield will eventually die. So let me just dock in here. Okay, and then I'll just show you a couple of other kind of little interesting fits and ships. Okay, ship hanger here. Okay, so I have a couple of Navy Ravens here in this station. This is the Maelstrom, the bomber I showed you the other day. I do have a Phoenix, hardly ever use that. My time zone is the absolute worst time zone for SHH Alliance in terms of active time. In fact, my couple of hours of active time coincides with AOA's most active time. I barely use these ships. I got one on each character. I've spent the last 6 to 9 months training skills on them, and basically have used them maybe one evening in that 6 months. So it's a complete waste of money, waste of ISK. I'm hoping at some point, again, it gets me annoyed because I'm looking at my court members during the, like on the American and European time zones, who are making bucket loads of money with these ships, and I'm just doing absolutely nothing with them. So it's kind of annoying, and I hope that at some point I can, because yeah, even with the AI, the money you make with that, it's still not enough to keep up with the kind of inflation rate that's going on. Again, just some general shuttles. I have a cargo hauling Drake there, a Chameleon, which again I have fit them up, but I haven't actually used them yet. I haven't maxed all the skills on that, but maybe I will try that at some point. But the other one I want to show you is this Praxis, which is kind of an interesting ship. I'm going to set active on that one now. And this one is just like a kind of a little tricky ship, which I use to kind of surprise people sometimes. Let me just jump into two things here. One is the implant, because the implant that I'm using there, the Warhead Charge, is at level 40, and that's about damage. But when I'm using the Praxis, I do something a bit different here. Set active, development here, and then what I do is okay, that's all set. So there. Right, so let me jump out of that. So this one, again, I don't use it very often. That's why it's not pimped with lots of GUs. The only GU on there is the shield extender and missile guidance computer. Because I also use this when I'm flying. There's this is for the testing with the Maelstrom, actually. I think I showed that the other day. So let me jump out here and quickly just show you this ship in space. Let's jump out.
Undocking.
No enemies in the vicinity right now. Okay, I do need to do something about the color scheme on this. I actually messed up. I repackaged this implant, and then because I wasn't using this ship, I repackaged it, and then afterwards I was like, oh, actually I think I could do something with this. And then when I went to gold it, I found that I couldn't after I'd repackaged it the first time. So please avoid that mistake. All right, so let me stop the ship here. So you can see here it's got a reasonable tank. I'll put on the implant mode here, the one that I'm using for this. Okay, here we go. So you can see the fit here basically is 3 hardeners and then a damage control, and then a missile guidance computer, and here is a basic signal amplifier. Basically that allows you to lock targets that little bit faster as well. And then here you can see is 2 target painters, a point, and again large NOS, and then the guns here are large missiles. So large rappers. The kind of thought behind this one is we do get kind of a lot of like smaller roamers like destroyers, inties coming around, and sometimes they see a battleship on it by itself and they think, this is someone we can kind of ambush and kill quite easy. Even sometimes the battleship gangs have like coercer dictators with them as well. And this ship kind of gives them quite a nice surprise, because you've got here on the implant, you've got this, which one is it? The in-flight disruption warhead. And what that does is it reduces the missile DPS. Now again, that's not so important on this ship because it's kind of, the DPS comes a lot from its drones. It does come from its missiles as well, but a lot from the drones. So when you have a damage reduction using this implant mode, it's only affecting the missiles, it's a smaller decrease on the overall DPS of the ship. And what it does is it decreases the speed. Every time a missile hits, there's a chance of about 20% to reduce the speed. So you've got 5 missiles firing. So every volley you have a chance to reduce the target speed by 20%. So if you're some speedy little inty frig, if you get hit by a volley of this, you'll suddenly find you're going a lot slower, and also it also affects their inertia. It puts a 100% penalty on their inertia. So taken together, especially if the inti pilot is not paying, or the dictator pilot is not paying attention, they can suddenly find themselves going a lot slower than they expect, which allows your drones and missiles to do a lot more damage. And I have, again, surprised people with this. Not the good pilots. The good pilots know what they're doing. They know that any battleship is a threat. But some of the people are kind of less aware. They think they can just zoom around without any consequences, suddenly find that their ship is going a lot slower than it normally would, that they're not moving as agilely as, or I don't know if that's a word, with the agility they normally would, and they find that those kind of missiles are actually landing and doing damage. So that's the kind of concept behind this. Sometimes I just use it as like a bait if I know there's a small kind of inti gang, and then I'll have 2 of my standard PvP ravens somewhere lurking in the background that I can kind of call in, which again is why in terms of defense here it's just like a passive defense, because I know I have those other 2 battleships somewhere nearby. In terms of the rigs on this, I'll just kind of show you here. Again, the targeting system, and capacity control. So again, the targeting system allows lock-on very fast, which again against smaller stuff is useful. And then again, I think these are just what I had to hand: 2 bay loading accelerators and a core defense field. The defense there, I think I've talked about already. I hadn't activated these, so I can show you here. So you can see the EHP is around 290,000, which is actually less than my Navy Raven, the untanky one, the one I was using for PvE. It's capacitor stable. I don't know the targeting here. You can see it's kind of got quite a good scan resolution, so it can surprise dictators and whatever. And again with these, again maybe I have the wrong implant, but Again, in terms of the range, you've got 51 kilometers range on those. So again, this is something I use from time to time, not that often, but it has had kills, or it has participated in kills, because again, it's one of those surprise factors people just don't expect to see a Praxis II on the battlefield. Saying that, I'm not quite sure what the insurance cost on this. That's why I kind of use it a little bit as bait, because people see it and they kind of go, wow, it would be great to get a kind of Praxis 2 kill, because no one else is flying them. So it does kind of tend to attract attention, and kind of sometimes you see these kind of inties just cruising around looking for targets. They see a battleship on the gate. Normally they just kind of go, okay, no, I'm just going to go zoom one past. But occasionally, if they see something like this, they think, oh, okay, maybe this is worth trying, and then suddenly find that they're going a lot slower, that they're pointed, that they've got neutered, and so on. So yeah, that's kind of the kind of concept. Oh, I forgot to turn that on as well when I was showing the scan resolution. I don't know if that makes any difference. I don't know if it shows up on here. Let's see. The targeting. Yeah, you can see the scan resolution now has increased to 502. So yeah, so it's again a little fun ship. Don't use it that often, but again, deck is quite quiet these days, and occasionally if you just see some small gang of light stuff flying around, then it's worth kind of sticking this on a gate somewhere and seeing if they'll engage it. Yeah, so anyway, those are the basic concepts. I'm not a pro PvPer by any means. I don't have the time or the patience to really concentrate on it, so I just have to try and get a little bit of fun. But I do enjoy the adrenaline when it does happen. All right, that's it, guys. I think I will leave it there. I'll kind of zoom out again so you can have a look at our pimped up anime citadel, and I'm just going to dock up now. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If you do have any questions on anything, and again, also suggestions, if you've got any good ideas, things that kind of would work better, then please do let me know. Just be aware that I am multi-boxing, so yeah, I'm multi-boxing in the kind of old-fashioned way, where I've got emulator, a phone, and an iPad, or sorry, not an iPad, a tablet. So basically, any suggestions have to be aware that I have to be able to do it across 3. It has to be something that is achievable across 3 accounts quickly, because it can be difficult, and I'm certainly not one of those guys who's got like 50 screens. Just couldn't cope with that. All right, thank you very much. If you do like the video, do like and subscribe, and I'll try and provide more content more regularly from now on. All right, thank you. Good night. Bye bye.